In this video, I'm gonna show you the top 5 worst legato mistakes and exactly how to fix them. But here's the thing, these aren't just random exercises that I just pulled out of my butt. They're actual exercises that I either developed myself or snagged from other really good legato players. And I actually use them myself to transform my legato. Look, I'm no legato expert, I'm no Tom Quayle, but I did make a pretty cool transformation. So in this video, I want to teach you the same mistakes I was making and exactly how to fix them. So let's jump in. Mistake number 1. If your legato sucks, chances are that your thumb position sucks. Look, I grew up playing a lot of blues guitar, so my natural grip was to have my thumb a little bit higher and hung over the neck. And that's great for certain styles of guitar playing, specifically bending. But doing legato is a lot like how a ballerina dances. You have to be light on your fingers. You also have to be able to stretch out your fingers while keeping them relaxed when doing legato. And what happens is if my thumb is high, it crunches my fingers together like this, and it's hard to stretch them out and stay relaxed. It also makes it harder to stay on the tips of my fingers and have that sort of finesse that a ballet dancer has or Tom Quayle has, for example. So I want to just drop my thumb down on the back of the neck. This will allow me to stay more on the fingertips and sort of dance across the strings like a ballerina. It'll allow me to stretch out my fingers and stay dexterous with my fingers. Mistake number 2. Back in the day when I would get done with a practice session, my hands would kill. And don't get me wrong, that's not necessarily a bad thing if your hands are a little sore after practicing for a while. But it just didn't feel like it was a good kind of hurt. But here's the thing, guys. Your hands should not be dying after you practice legato. But if you're anything like I was, chances are that you are playing with way too much tension. And that's why I was burning out so fast and my technique was crappy. Tension control is so important. I mean, listen to what one of the best guitar players that I know of has to say about tension.
One of the most important aspects of playing the guitar is about controlling tension. How much control do you have over the tension you apply? You know, a lot of players, the tension controls them. You know, they're not in control of the tension. It should be the other way round.
So like Rick says, we want to control tension in our practice session. We want to stay nice and relaxed and light, especially when doing legato, but we want to control the tension. We don't want tension to control us. This is especially important in legato because if your legato technique isn't efficient, you will always overcompensate with tension. So something that you should practice every day as its own special part of your practice routine is tension control. So you set a timer anywhere between 5 and 10, 15 minutes maybe. Take this major sequence that I'm about to show you and purposely focus on staying as relaxed as possible. This is just a major scale playing 7 notes per string. And then descending. So you take this sequence and the main focus here is in the left hand accuracy because look, if you're not being accurate in the left hand, again, you will overcompensate with tension. So you want to stay as relaxed and accurate as possible. Mistake number 3. Yeah, that's Tom Quayle, and he's considered one of the gurus of all gurus when it comes to legato. And I got this next exercise from him, so you know it's legit. Look, it doesn't take a genius to know that you need a really coordinated left hand to be good at legato. So why is nobody telling you to isolate your left hand during practice? My guitar teachers never told me this. They never talked about isolating hands in order to get better at something. And I'm blown away that I never learned this because it's crucial in developing your legato technique. So there's 2 ways I want you to practice left hand isolation. I want you to throw on a fret wrap because right now we're not focusing on, it's not cheating, chill out. We're not focusing on muting technique right now. We'll cover that in a second. We're just focusing on building left hand dexterity. We're focusing on building finger independence. We want these fingers to start thinking independently of the other ones. So the first way to do this is to do strictly hammer-ons. Hammer-ons from nowhere. Even where you're supposed to do a pull-off, you're not gonna pull off, you're gonna do a hammer-on like this. This isn't supposed to sound incredible or clean or anything. Again, the main focus isn't necessarily sound, it's to develop finger independence. The next way I want you to do it is still with the left hand only, but to actually do hammer-ons and pull-offs together. Now, mistake number 3 starts to become really glaring when you start doing this exercise I just showed you. And mistake number 3 is that people aren't training their pinky coordination, specifically pulling off from the pinky to the ring finger. It's quite easy to hammer on because you're just falling on to the string. It's hard to get a clean pull off with your pinky. So an exercise to fix this is to stay on 1 or 2 strings, and anytime you have a pull off from your pinky to your ring finger, you just isolate that. So a lot of times for people, every time I pull off to the pinky, that pull off will be much weaker than say from the ring finger to the first finger. So you start out by just simply hammering on with your pinky and pulling off to your ring finger. This is gonna feel so hard at first. And then you test it out with a little bit more of the sequence. You want this to sound as if you were doing a pull off on the same notes from your ring finger to your first finger. So make sure you work on your coordination, specifically pulling off from your pinky to your ring finger. Do this with a very small amount of notes first, and then start putting this sequence back together again. Mistake number 5. Here's the problem. You can fix your thumb position, your tension, your pinky coordination. You can fix all the things, but if you're getting excess noise from the strings, you're gonna sound sloppy no matter what. So we take this off, and now we start training our muting technique. Most people don't know how to mute properly, and they don't specifically train just muting technique. So we're gonna fix that once and for all. Here's how muting works. So the notes on the D string, that's what we're gonna work on for a second to demonstrate this. Simply put, your palm with your right hand mutes the strings above the target string, and the underside of your first finger mutes the strings below the target string. So if I'm playing notes on the D string, my first finger is gonna be just flat enough to cover, not to bar and press down, but just to cover these strings right underneath, and it will mute them. And then my palm will cover the strings above the target string, so that way the only string that you're hearing is the string you're currently playing, the target string. So as you move and descend or ascend in the sequence, your palm is slowly shifting with it, and your first finger is staying flat enough to mute the strings underneath. That's it. Now here's the issue that people make. They don't isolate this specific technique and work on it in isolation. So what you need to do each day is you need to set a timer for X amount of minutes, 5-10 minutes, go through your sequence, put on a metronome, and specifically work on this muting technique. You might only be able to do 1 string at first before things start sounding sloppy, and that's okay. You slowly add 1 string at a time, all the while focusing on your muting technique. The hard part here, if you're new at legato, is keeping your first finger relatively straight while curving over your other 3 fingers. Another pro tip, lastly with this, is that you're using all parts of your palm to mute. And as you get down to the lower strings, you start using a little bit of this side of your hand as well. You start out by just using this on the top strings, and as you're going, you kind of sort of rock just slightly onto this side to mute those strings as you get to the high E and the B strings. So just to recap, mistake number 1 was your thumb position. The exercise for that is just to go through the major sequence I showed you and practice dropping your thumb, and that's it. Mistake number 2 is people don't work on tension control. They tense up way too much in their practice. So you go through this exercise, you set a timer so that you're specifically focusing on that one thing, and you work on your tension control, you work on your relaxation. Mistake number 3 is people don't isolate the left hand with a fret wrap and really work on their finger independence. So every day you do the 2 exercises, the hammer-ons, sort of like the chicken pecking, think light on your feet like a ballerina, and then the normal sequence with hammer-ons and pull-offs with just the left hand. This exercise alone will make your legato become so much better in a very short amount of time, within a few days. The fourth mistake was people don't train specifically their pinky to ring finger coordination, doing those pull-offs from pinky to ring finger. So isolate that every day, set a timer for that, and work on that if it's giving you trouble. And lastly, mistake number 5 was that people don't specifically train their muting technique. Is start from the beginning of the exercise, specifically focus on muting technique, and it's okay if you start on 1 string or 2 strings first, and then slowly go down and put all the strings together. And look, if you want to learn the exact practice method that I use to get good at this type of stuff and that my students use, click this video right here.